What's up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with Jon Marks, presented by Bet Parks. As always, presented by Bet Parks. Philly with Jon Marks on PHLY. Good morning to everybody. We're live at 8 a.m. on a Friday. It is true. I'm working from the home studio today. As you can see, I have a very beautiful home, a huge home. That grand piano behind me is only one of the pianos that I have. I have many others. It's bright. It's sunny. Look at that couch. I feel like I'm in the mountains. Yes, we are working from home today. Tyler Zulli will join us coming up in a second. Today, it felt like the first morning, well, it was the first morning that I turned the heat on. I have not had to turn the heat on yet, and I came down this morning, and I knew it was cold, and it was 64 degrees in the house. So I'm like, all right, let's put the heat on. So the heat went on. Now I am sweating. But anyway, so it finally feels like fall football weather. And we'll talk about the Eagles. I feel a void in me because we were so caught up in the Phillies, and the Eagles were on the bye week. It's actually the perfect time to have the Eagles have a bye week, at least for us. We really haven't talked much about the Eagles. We will do that with Zach Berman coming up 8:25. So about 23 minutes from now, Zach will join us, and he'll catch us up on everything that's going on with the team and so on and so forth. And we'll talk about the Browns. Eagles, big favorites, 9.5 points still on the Bet Parks app. Eagles and Browns, 9.5 points. So the Eagles, do they deserve to be 9.5 point favorites over anybody? We'll discuss that coming up. Also, the camera angle's much closer on me today. I think I look great when we're doing it at the studio. Now I actually look probably my age. I either need plastic surgery, makeup, or I just need to deal with the fact that I'm getting old. So, yeah. So I apologize if I'm scaring people off this morning. What's up, everybody? So yesterday, and again, yesterday's show was a reaction the day after, the morning after, really. We didn't come on at 2:00 in the afternoon. Sometimes when you come on in the afternoon, you don't have the same bite as 6:00 in the morning. So when the morning show comes on, they are like the first to react to it. And then by 2:00, when you do an afternoon drive like I did for so many years, not that you're not reacting to it, but you've heard people talk about it a lot. People have talked about it, and there's a little bit of a bite taken off. So yesterday morning, 8:00, we're talking about the Phillies losing. Not a historic collapse, beaten by a better team, but it almost immediately shifts to, so like, what do you do now? What do you do? Because it felt like that this year was to get over the hump year. When you lose in the World Series and then you lose in the NLCS, like the Phillies lost in the NLCS, let's not act like that was anything other than, like, that's a historic collapse. That was worse than the Eagles and what they did last year, in my opinion. In 2023, like that was tough. Feels worse now than it did then, even because of what happened this year. But now you have to look at it and say, okay, World Series appearance, terrible loss in the NLCS, and you pretty much got beaten soundly by the Mets in the divisional series. Like now, and I felt yesterday, as I still do today, that the Phillies window with this core group has closed. Now, could they still win if they run it back with minor adjustments? Could they still win a World Series? Of course. They're still a talented team. They still have Bryce Harper. They still have Kyle Schwarber. They still have arguably one of the top 3 pitching staffs in all of baseball, if not, like number one. Bullpen has a lot of questions. There's still a lot of things they need to do, but this team isn't trash. This isn't the Phillies after they made their run. Ryan Howard blows out his Achilles, and then everybody's just cooked, and they're done for a decade. That's not this team. But do you really have confidence going in to 2025 that the Phillies are going to win the World Series? With this core, I don't. And if you were paying me, if John Middleton gave me a call and said, listen, John, I'm going to move on from Dave Dombrowski, looking for a general manager to run the team going forward, would you be interested? And I could totally see that happening. And I accepted the job. What would I do? To tell you the truth, I'm not entirely sure. But here's what I would try to accomplish. I would try to change the dynamic of this team. I would try to get a little bit younger if possible. The problem with the Phillies the last 2 seasons, when they're not scoring runs, when they're not hitting home runs. And when you face better starting pitching, better bullpens, it starts to get a little bit colder out. It's not July, it's not August. and you're not able to hit for the same power as the Phillies weren't able to hit for the same power, think about it. Game 2, what did they do? Hit back-to-back home runs, right? Like that has always been a big part of what they do. So when you don't hit home runs, you lose games. That's a problem. I need to maybe be able to have different dynamics of hitters that aren't necessarily relying on the home run. I wanted to bring in Tyler. Tyler Zulli is also working from home today. He's in his home studio. He joins us right now. I wanted to try this exercise because people were very upset with me yesterday when I said that the Phillies window was closed. But I wanted to try this. So right now, as a Phillies fan, what you need to be doing. And by the way, good morning, Tyler. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. Other than the fact that at some point during this show, my dog and or cat may try to attack me because they're on a warpath today to fight each other. But other than that, I'm doing great.
That sounds like good content. Honestly,
it might be. Hey, listen, what good content was it? Bad publicity? All publicity is good publicity, I guess.
The NFL says
all content is good content. If these two decide that they're going to go on their go into gremlin mode, we might be in for something.
All right. Well, listen, you can do the play-by-play. So right now as a Phillies fan, I'm looking at this current roster and saying, okay, is this team good enough as it stands right now? And again, we're allowing for some minor tweaks, but as this team stands right now, are they good enough that you believe they can, or it's likely that they will win a World Series next year? I went into this season saying like, hey, we don't know if they're going to win a World Series, but are they good enough to win a World Series? I thought going into the year that they're good enough to win a World Series. I don't believe at the end of the year that they're good enough to win a World Series.
No, I think that the issues that have plagued them each of the last seasons have been fairly consistent. It's poor plate approach down the stretch. It's lackluster offense when you need it most. The bullpen was a little bit surprising this year, obviously, because they had been so good all year. It was a little bit of a surprise that Jeff Hoffman was not good and Matt Strahm was not good. No, Ryan Kerkering was not good. The guys you expected to be good were good. The starting pitching was, for the most part, pretty good in this series.
Yeah.
Kept you in just about every game. Do I think that they are able to win a World Series with this core? I do, but that feel has floundered and has faltered quite a bit. I think tweaks are expected from a lot of people. I think people maybe want major changes, and you're not going to see that. We kind of outlined why the case is yesterday, where the core is kind of locked in for the better part of the next half decade or so for a lot of these guys. And they're up against the luxury tax threshold. So assuming they're going to spend, that they don't want to go into that next tier of luxury tax, it's going to be relatively the same team, barring a trade that we don't see coming.
By the way, it's entirely possible.
It's certainly possible. If Dave Dombrowski and John Middleton get together and John Middleton starts to put feet to the fire and says, hey, listen, we need to make a earth-shattering move because I'm tired of how these last two seasons have finished, certainly plausible. But I do think that this core is pretty much this core heading into next year.
Yeah, I agree. I there may be a trade that he makes that we're not expecting, and that would be news to my eyes or my ears. But so again, if because whether or not you think that something's going to happen or whether or not you think it's going to work, like I'll just ask you, it's a very direct question and you don't have to expound on it very much. Do you believe this team is good enough to win the World Series next year as currently constituted?
I guess I have to ask, are we playing under the pretense that the plate approach is the same that it was this year and that it was in the post?
I would just say that based on what we've seen from these players, and we're going to actually do the exercise right now. What we've seen from these players, what you expect from the players. I expected more from the players this year. So let's do this.
On paper, the answer is yes. In practice, in real life, the answer is probably closer to no.
All right. So let's look at what we thought about these Phillies players before the season started at the end of 2023 and how they actually ended up playing in 2024. Bryce Harper. Did you expect more? Was it about the same? Was it down a little bit from your expectations? How did Bryce perform in 2024?
Yeah, I think for the most part, Bryce was really good. I know that there was a power sap in July, but even during that stretch where he wasn't hitting home runs, he was hitting like 312 over that stretch. He was
productive.
He was very, very productive.
He had a
I
good
know
year.
he had the injury issues, and that probably took some of his MVP momentum away, because if you remember, like the end of June, he won back-to-back NL Players of the Month. I think it was May and June. He was NL National League Player of the Month. He was on an MVP pace. Now,
But
no one was going to take it from Shohei Ohtani. He's been, insane this year. But Bryce Harper, for the most part, other than that stretch where the power got sapped, he was the guy we expected.
Well, Bryce Harper was good, but injuries also matter here.
Sure.
Right? Like when we're talking about what we're projecting the 2025, and that's really what we're talking about when we talk about the window being open for next year. I expect Bryce Harper to be as good or better, maybe even better. He took a little bit of a downturn this year because of the injuries, because of the power zapping. But if anything, it's just a little bit, right? Trey Turner. To me, Trey Turner isn't up. He isn't down. I know we'll remember what happened in the playoffs, but for the most part in the regular season, he put up similar numbers to what he normally puts up. So, if you were expecting more from Trey Turner, which certainly you should have been, he really didn't do much more than what he did the previous year. Agreed?
So, yes, Trey Turner is the one of the core of guys that are making big money that I think people are going to point at because of A, the length of the contract, B, the money of the contract. He's getting worse defensively as the years go on. And we expected that. We talked about it on the Philly show yesterday. Like, we expected years like 8, 9, 10 to maybe feel like an albatross because he's going to be like 39, 40 years old. Can he hit? Because he's not going to be a defender. I don't think any of us expected the issues to arise in year 2 and 3, or 1 and 2, excuse me. Defensively, he is not he's a well below average defensive shortstop at this point. I think offensively, the stretches that he goes through where he is scalding hot, he is one of the best hitters on the planet. And then there's stretches where you feel like he's flailing and he falls off the face of the earth.
So, like for me,
for me, I think it's probably like slightly trending downward.
Yeah, I expected more from Turner this year. Schwarber gave you exactly what you needed and what you were looking for. Schwarber had another great year. Castellanos actually had a good year this year. He exceeded my expectations. Castellanos this year.
Well, I will say this. I think if Castellanos, not to say that he would hit the way that he did for the back half of the season all year, but the first 2 months of the year, he was dreadful. And he
picked it up. You're right.
And he picked it up. He was hitting 198 after a series in May against the Giants. He ended up hitting like 240 something. So for an everyday player, you're going to look at that number and go, that's not worth $20 million. But reality is he dug himself out of a massive hole and was much, much better in the second half of the year. I was really happy with the productivity Castellanos provided you from like late June to the back half of the season.
JT, because of injury, but like for the most part, he was JT. His power numbers were down a little bit. He had less plate appearances because of the injury, but for the most part, like JT was JT. Bohm, Marsh, Stott, Rojas. I think you could say that Bohm exceeded expectations, but then by the end of the season, we hate him. Right now, we're looking to trade him by the end of the year, so it's really hard to use that as part of the argument. Marsh regressed, Stott regressed. I think Rojas actually was okay this year. He didn't he's still in the major league roster. He was still the starter, but I don't know what you can count on from him. So my point from doing this, now let's look at it going into next year. What player was trending up last year to where it's like, oh no, like that was like exceeded expectations, ascending, not descending? Is there anybody?
Christopher Sanchez. Are you talking about just the lineup?
Just the lineup. The starting pitching is very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Just the lineup. Alec Bohm through the end of July, or I guess the beginning of July. That's the answer to that question, probably.
Now we want to trade him. Now,
and I know people now aren't thrilled with him. Stott regressed offensively. I think Stott's a gem defensively at second base. You've got a perennial Gold Glove candidate, but the thing is, if you have a skill set that doesn't also mean like I think about Esteury Ruiz with the A's. He stole like 70 bags last year. He had 55 at bats this year. Do you know why? He can't hit.
Yeah.
If you can't hit, you can't get on the field. Bryson Stott took a massive step backwards. The difference with Stott compared to a guy like Ruiz, it's probably an unfair comparison. We've seen Stott at probably close to his peak last year. He hit like 270, I think he hit last year at the end of the year. Good plate approach. A guy that can wreak some havoc on the base paths. A good 2-strike hitter. This year, he took a massive step backwards. Pitchers were challenging him up in the zone. They realized with 2 strikes he wasn't going to be able to get up on top of a high fastball. He took a massive step offensively backwards this year.
Yep. So here's the end of this discussion right here. We'll get to your headlines coming up, and then Zach's going to join us. So if we saw what the players were from the end of 2023 and how they performed this year, now we're projecting how they're going to perform next year. Why would I believe that anybody on this team is going to be better, is going to perform better next year based on the last 2 years? Like Harper, I think is going to be Harper. Turner, does he continue to regress? Schwarber, see, I think like Schwarber's a guy that maybe he's not the same player next year. His average was up big time. He had more hits. He had more RBIs than he's had as a Philly. He had a great year. Can we count on that? Castellanos, can we count on that? JT, he's a 33-year-old catcher. Generally, when you get older as a catcher, you don't improve. And he had knee injuries this year. Bohm, I don't know what's going on with him. Marsh, I don't think is an everyday player. No. Stott is the biggest surprise for me this year is that Stott didn't take a step up, or at least
me too.
Continued to progress like he did. Like he had a really, really good breakout year in 2023 to where it was like, yep, we do have something here. I don't know anymore. I don't. And then Rojas' defense is for defense, and I think he can be an adequate starting center fielder that may never figure it out at the plate. Totally.
Yeah, the one to me that I think is that sticks out to me, and it's he's not the guy making money, right? If you talk about the money makers, then this is not part of the equation. But Brandon Marsh is not an everyday center fielder. He can't hit left-handed pitching. He had a little bit of an extended blip at the end of the season where he was better against lefties. His strikeout rate was starting to go down. But throughout the course of the season, it was a massive strikeout rate. His K rate was up at like 30 some odd percent at one point. It was closing in on 40%, which is just absurd for a guy who doesn't hit for power. Like if you have a true old school Adam Dunn type power hitter and they're striking out, Kyle Schwarber even, for example, if they strike out 200 times a year, but they put 40 balls in the seats, you play the balancing act of forgiveness. A guy like Brandon Marsh, who probably will never eclipse, I don't think he'll ever eclipse 20. He has to be a guy whose strikeout rate is lower. His chase rate has to be lower. He has to put together better at bats. He's lost against left-handed pitching. He basically can only play against one side of the plate. And I don't think he's good enough against right-handed pitching. He was good. Last year, he was really good against right-handed pitching. This year, he was okay. I don't think he's good enough against either side of the mound to warrant being an everyday player. He's the one that drives me crazy.
Yeah, same with me. He does. We'll have many more opportunities to talk about this right here. So in closing, I guess my mindset of the window's closed is if the team's already regressed and I'm looking at this lineup without moves and saying like, well, nobody's going to get significantly better from here, then how do you explain other than the weird baseball thing where everybody gets hot and like, because you're always going to have that. They have enough talent to where if they get hot, they could win a World Series. But like as of right now, there's certainly no expectation this team's winning a World Series based on the last 2 years. We normally do headlines right now. We got to kind of work through it here. And it's brought to you by Glatt Hair Restoration. You know me. You can actually see if I'm complaining, Tyler, about my eyes. You can't complain about the hair, man.
No, it looks good.
Looking good. GlattHairMCTR.com, 610-980-4000. Just real fast, great baseball playoffs. Yankees win, close out the Royals last night. So they advance to the ALCS. And Cleveland and Detroit. What a friggin' series this is.
Great
Tyler.
series.
I mean, back and forth. Cleveland wins it 5-4. That series is tied 2-2. So you have 2 game 5s. Padres, Dodgers, Cleveland, Detroit. Love it. Great baseball.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun the next 2 days. If you can separate your sadness of being a Phillies fan from game 5s of the NLDS, it's going to be a lot of fun baseball. David Fry comes up huge last night for the Guardians. Emmanuel Clase he just fires, man. 101 on the hands with the cutter. They do score a run in the bottom of the ninth bottom of the ninth to make it interesting. But the Guardians win 5-4. And then on the other side, you bring up the Padres and the Dodgers. The Dodgers announced yesterday that Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to be their starter heading into a game 5, a winner go home, and you're sending a guy to the mound who hasn't pitched a whole lot this year. It should be really, really interesting. I think both bullpens are going to be used heavily. Everybody's going to be available because if you lose, you're not playing tomorrow. I think the same could be said for both I can say the same could be said for the Guardians. The Tigers are almost definitively going to send Tarek Skubal to the mound. And he's going to shove for as long as he can. Two really interesting, fun, different type of series. In the National League, you've got two teams that have spent $1 bazillion to get to where they're at. In the American League, you've got two teams that spend $4 to get to where they're at. And two of these four teams are going to go play for the AL and NLCS in a couple of days.
Yeah, Thursday Night Football, the Niners covered over the Seahawks. I was up late folding laundry watching that one.
I give you credit for watching that game. I just decided, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. I'll watch it tomorrow.
I am so busy with, like, right now my house is a complete mess. I literally need to get finished work and go up and do so many different things. But yeah, so like I would love to go on to sleep, but it's like, you know what? Let me just fold this laundry because it's trash day. So last night I had to put the trash out and the recycling out. That's a whole process. Got a whole friggin' kitchen full of dishes that I didn't finish last night. So I got a lot of work today that I got to do. Zach Berman is going to join us coming up here in less than 5 minutes, as will, like, honestly, I need him to update me on what's going on with the Eagles. Is everybody healthy? How does he feel about this team? Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts living in perfect harmony, as Jalen Hurts said earlier this week. We'll talk to it all of it with Zach Berman coming up here in a second. But hey, listen, it's all about Rite Aid. I woke up this morning, and when I say this morning, like in the middle of the night, baby's yelling, I rock her back to sleep, and I can, like, man, I feel like holy hell right now. And went down, boom, that medicine cabinet, got my Advil cold and sinus because bad sore throat, like starting to cough, just overall feel like crap. And yeah, like I bought it at Rite Aid not long ago. I'm always in Rite Aid. I love going in. They have so many good deals. They have everything. They have great sales on household items too. I'm always looking for a good deal. But if you have prescriptions, and everybody for the most part has prescriptions, right? Rite Aid makes it so easy for you to get all your prescriptions refilled and make it really convenient too, right? Like that's what Rite Aid's all about. Refill prescriptions, schedule vaccines. All you need is a prescription at Rite Aid. Go to riteaid.com/mypharmacy. That gives you a My Pharmacy account. And then boom, you can do everything you want. Also, the app. Apple App Store or Google Play. You can manage your prescriptions. You can get everything. How about this? If you have like 4 or 5 prescriptions, bundle them together. They'll put it for you to where you can pick it up once a month so you don't have to go to the drugstore a bunch of times. I like going to my local Rite Aid in Royersford, Pennsylvania. But again, transfer your prescriptions to Rite Aid today. Go to riteaid.com/transfer. Rite Aid caring pharmacists are ready to answer your questions and help you stay healthy. Get your prescriptions along with anything at Rite Aid that you need. That's over-the-counter medicines, household products, cosmetics, and more. Just ask your pharmacy team for details. Restrictions apply. And normally when Tyler comes on and tells us about Shady Rays, I get to put on the Shady Rays and check them out, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah, the funny thing is mine are over on the counter over there. So I'll have to, you just have to take my word for it that they're sitting over there, because I do own a couple of pairs of Shady Rays because they are the best shades in the business. And I actually changed over from another brand a couple of years ago. I was very loyal to that brand, but I found Shady Rays a couple of years ago and I haven't gone back. They have 5-star ratings by over 300,000 people. And the reason that I switched was because I need those crystal clear optics, because whether it's driving or actually I switched right as I was playing baseball and I was really struggling with the lights and the glares and things like that. And I needed to be able to see a little bit better in the outfield. So I switched over to my friends over at Shady Rays, and I have not gone back. And the best thing about Shady Rays is if they ever go missing or if they take a hit, don't worry about it, because they have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. That is, every pair that you buy will be backed by a lost or broken replacement. And if you buy your shades, especially if you buy them online, maybe you like them online, but they get to you and they don't fit quite right, or you don't like the look, don't worry about it. They have a worry-free return within the first 30 days, so there is no risk for you when you shop. And exclusively for our listeners right now, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. If you head on over to shadyrays.com, use the code PHLY, you'll get 35% off polarized sunglasses. And guys, just think about it. The holidays are not too far away. It's never too early to start holiday shopping. If you've got somebody in your life like me who always needs their shades on, you'll see me in the overcast days, the snowy days. I've got my sunglasses on. Think about Shady Rays when you're thinking about your holiday shopping experience.
All right, there you go. Actually, used to know a guy. We called him Shady Ray, not because he wore sunglasses, but he was definitely shady. That's for sure.
It's the same thing, right? Sunglasses, creepy guy, whatever.
Right. Yeah. A creepy guy that's like, hang on, is he going to rob my house if I allow him is he going to look for for jewelry and things like that. I think actually Shady Ray passed away not too long ago, if my sources are correct. All right, Zach Berman's going to join us coming up here in a second. One other thing on the Phillies, that like Rob Thompson's, like I just think it's a non-story. He's not getting fired, but the story came out that the Phillies are evaluating everything and talking about if they're going to make moves or whatever. I think at the most they move on from a coach. I know the Braves let go four members of their coaching staff yesterday. Normally, when you lose, guys lose jobs. That's the bottom line, whether they deserve it or not. Like Kevin Long's their hitting coach. Does he deserve to be let go? I mean, you saw the Phillies change their approach in Game 4. They took a lot of pitches. They were just up there swinging and everything. I have no idea if Kevin Long's the right guy for the job or not. But a lot of times that doesn't matter. There's somebody that has to pay for it. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I would be absolutely positively shocked if Rob Thomson was fired, and I don't believe he should be. He's a great leader. The guys play for him. Would it be, am I necessarily totally satisfied with his decision making and how he runs games sometimes? Like, no, but I'm like that with almost every manager that's out there. So I don't think Rob's getting let go, and I'd be shocked if he was, and I wouldn't let go of him. Let's bring in Zach Berman, who covers the Eagles for PHLY. Him and Bo Wolf and Jamie Lynch do the daily podcast. And Zach joins us right now. What's going on, Zach?
Good to talk to you. I want to shout out Fran Duffy too. He does an awesome job for us.
Oh yeah,
what
am I talking about with Fran? No, but like he is. Does he sleep, Fran Duffy? I mean, he's in the film room all the time. He's writing articles. He's doing everything else.
Yeah, I need to keep pace with him, man, because he's got he's got film breakdowns, he's got draft reviews. So we got our coverage on allphly.com is really standing out right now.
It's unbelievable. All right. Also, the author of The Franchise, Philadelphia Eagles, A Curated History of the Eagles. That's available at your local bookstore or wherever you buy your books. Or if you see Zach at the Wawa, he's got copies in his trunk. So just announce that you're coming up next to him and then ask him for a copy. But yes, how's it going? I know you had the big event at PHLY.
Yeah.
We had the diehards that were in. I saw the social media from it. It looked awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's going well. The feedback has been really gratifying, and excited to see more people here. I have some book events coming up that I'll share on social, but some local, Barnes and Nobles and different bookstores in the area.
Awesome. Very good. All right. So we have been on the bye week. I mean, sometimes I remember that the Eagles and the Phillies were in the World Series and the Eagles were, I think, undefeated, or they were in the middle of their run. It's like, wow, you have both teams doing this at the same time. It was actually a good week from our perspective for the Eagles to be on the bye so we can focus on the Phillies. But now that the Phillies are done, you have to update us. So the big news after they lost and we went into the bye week was the injuries. Ton of injuries. Skill guys are out. Update us. How is everybody doing? Are we expecting everybody back on Sunday against the Browns?
Yeah, the quick answer is I think all 53 players are going to be healthy enough to play this week. So that's a good sign. The detailed answer here is Lane Johnson's been cleared to return. AJ Brown, I'm expecting him to play. Devontae Smith is still in the concussion protocol, but my understanding is that that's more kind of procedural at this point. I expect him to be cleared before Sunday's game. Nakobe Dean has been limited this week with an ankle injury. Wouldn't worry about that. Spoke to Nakobe yesterday. He's going to be fine to play.
Well, that's good news. The one headline that I did notice this week, and it made me laugh because they asked Jalen about, and you can tell me how this got out there. Maybe Nick talked about it, but during a bye week, a lot of times guys like to go away. If they're given off by the team, they like to clear their head pretty early in the season to where it's like, wow, I need to go to Cancun for a couple of days, or I need to go to Florida. So I don't know how many guys actually went away, but Jalen, I heard him talk about how him and Nick met and they, I guess, still ironing out some things. He said that they're living in perfect harmony, or living in harmony, like Thunder and Paul McCartney. But so like, is this relationship still an issue? Like, are they having to, like, it's always good to communicate and it's always good to have conversations, but what's going on internally? Is there still issues with the quarterback and the coach?
Yeah. So the context was that after the Tampa game, when he was asked about his communication during the bye week or his communication with Nick, Jalen said we have our moments, which is a really odd answer. I mean, the way I framed it on the PHLY Eagles show is, even if you take away coach player, there's no relationships I imagine where if the answer is we have our moments, it's a good thing. Like if someone says, "How's everything with your wife?" and I say we have our moments, that would be a little concerning, right?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Sure. So that was odd. And so then Jalen, maybe in an overcorrection, maybe like in a poke at the fact that this became a story, he said a few times during his press conference this week that him and Nick had great moments. Like he went out of his way to say great moments. We had great moments. Look, the reality is this is a relationship that's worth monitoring because there is a there, right? There is something to monitor. Now, not all, coaches, it's like any relationship, these things evolve, these things are dynamic. These guys have been together for 4 years. In any relationship, when you're with someone for 4 years, there's always, kind of stuff that there, but what matters is how it's going on the field. And right now there are too many turnovers, and that's something you hear from Nick. That's something Jalen would tell you. So a big point of emphasis during the bye week from the conversations between those guys and the conversations with the team has been cleaning up, playing cleaner football. Jalen, this is an interesting stat. Jalen has a quarter of the NFL's turnovers in the red zone by quarterbacks, right? So 1 in 4 turnovers in the red zone by quarterbacks are by Jalen Hurts. Now, if you just clean that up, those like turnover in the red zone are points off the board. The Eagles haven't scored more than 21 points since week or more than 21 points since week 1. So this is something that needs to be cleaned up, and it's a priority for the team right now.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing because the one thing that you could say about Jalen early in his career was that he doesn't turn the ball over. He takes great care of the football, so you don't have to worry about that part of him. And it's been everything else since then. When you talk about it being cleaned up, there really are unforced errors in a lot of these situations, right? Like if you just make adjustments, like you have to, in that Tampa game where he did a good job of getting away from the pressure, but then he's got to know he can't stand there for another 2 seconds trying to make a throw because he's going to get hit. That's exactly what happened. And it was a strip sack and they lost it. So he's just got to be a little bit smarter with the football. Is this something that you feel like gets cleaned up now? You have the bye week. It's everybody knows you need to clean it up, but does it feel like that this turns to you? Or honestly, Zach, right now the Eagles are 9.5-point favorites over the Browns. I don't know how they're 9.5-point favorites really over anybody at this point. There's something missing. There's just something missing with this team. I don't know what it is. I can't necessarily put my finger on it, but there's something missing with this team.
Yeah, well, so to answer the first part of the question, I do believe in turnover variance. And what I mean by that is I remember in 2022, Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon were like adamant against this storyline of turnover luck. And they say, no, we coach it more, we emphasize it more, we teach it more. And that's why the turnover differential was so good. And I disagreed then. I disagreed then because every coach I've ever met discusses turnovers. Like the Eagles didn't all of a sudden say, all right, we're gonna focus on taking the ball away and not turning it over, right? So I think there is turnover variance, and you see this year to year. Now there are some guys who are more turnover prone, but by and large, I don't expect the Eagles to be -6 going forward here. I imagine they're going to get some hands on, some interceptions, some fumbles on defense, and Jalen will presumably clean this up a bit on offense. But to your second point, you are right. There is something missing here. Frankly, if you ask me what's missing, I think it's A.J. Brown. And what I mean by that is when A.J. Brown's played one game this season, they scored 34 points. The offense looked like it was supposed to be with Kellen Moore. You take him out, and they scored 17 points a game. So it's almost half of that, right? And then and you're just not seeing the same type of explosiveness. Defenses play you differently. So I don't mean to put it all on one player, but if you say to me, what was the biggest difference between the way the Eagles played in 2021 and 2022? It was having a wide receiver like A.J. Brown on the field. And I think getting A.J. is going to have a material effect on the way this team looks.
That's a great, very, very good point. Looking at the Browns now, they're an absolute mess. Deshaun Watson looks like he just can't play anymore. He's on pace, Zach. I don't know if you saw this stat. He's on pace to be sacked the most times and for the most yards in NFL history. And I grew up with Randall Cunningham, who got sacked all the time. He's going to crush that record of Randall Cunningham. Is this the week that the pass rush? Because I'm just going to say it right now. If they can't get to the quarterback this year, they're not winning. They're not advancing very far in the playoffs. It's been their bread and butter. Every year that they're good, they can get to the quarterback. They have 6 sacks this year, I believe, total. Is this the perfect week that the guys, let's go, and they kind of get off the schneid here? What do you think?
In theory, yes. Now, the reason I'm not like adamant yes is I do think personnel is an issue with the pass rush, and I've been saying this since the spring. I was in a wait and see approach with Bryce Huff. I think that I need to see kind of who their rushers were going to be from the edge, and the only guys on the edge who have sacks right now are Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat. Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith. These guys aren't getting to the quarterback right now, right? And so I think part of this is personnel, but then the other part of this is game flow too, right? And what I mean by that is the Eagles are the only team in the NFL that has not scored a point in the first quarter. When this pass rush is at its best, it's a formula that you've seen for 25 years. Andy Reid used to have it. You pass to get ahead, you take a lead, you make the opposing defense one-dimensional, and then you get after it. You pin your ears back and you get after it with these, with like all these fastballs you have on the edge. And the Eagles are playing from behind too often this year. So if you tell me they're going to build up a 14-3 lead, they're going to make Cleveland one-dimensional, and Deshaun's going to hold the ball back there. He clearly isn't playing with confidence. The Eagles can't pin their ears back. Yeah, I'll say this is the week the pass rush can get to it. But if they're running a good play action game, Cleveland, if they're neutralizing the Eagles, if the Eagles are slow starting as they've been throughout the season, then I'm not sure the pass rush is going to be much better, because I don't know if they have – look, they certainly don't have Myles Garrett, and I don't see enough guys who are winning their one-on-ones that say that they're just going to have like a dominant guy around the edge.
Quickly, I don't know if you give predictions on your PHLY show, but how are you leaning? How are you feeling about this game going into Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched the Browns quite a bit recently. I'm not impressed. I think Stefanski's a really good coach. I think Jim Schwartz is a really good defensive coordinator. If Deshaun Watson somehow figures out how to play quarterback again, I think this can be a closer game. But I think the fact that the Eagles are healthy, the Eagles are coming off a bye. Vegas is telling you 9.5-point favorites. I have the Eagles winning 24-16, so winning but not covering. That said, I heard you talking about the Phillies before I came on. If the Eagles have a slow start here, if they're losing at halftime, that's going to be an ugly, ugly place on Sunday.
Point. That's a really good point. Yeah, because we're not in the mood. Well, like, I've never, Zach, I very, very rarely you'll hear me talk about style points. This week, I think for everybody involved, it'd be nice if they had a nice win where the offense looked good, where they got to the quarterback. A style point win this week would serve, I think, everybody well.
Yeah, like the old school, when the Eagles and Phillies were like in competition for fan attention. When the Phillies are good, you can say, all right, a bad Eagles game. The Eagles can't afford a bad game right now for the Philly fans.
One last thing, and it's not about the Eagles. You covered Hassan Reddick his 2 years here. His agents, his representation, CAA, dropped him as a client. And this entire thing to me has been bizarre. I thought he was getting bad advice. I just don't know if he's listening to the advice. He's already forfeited now at 5 game checks, $2 million from training camp, knowing him a little bit from covering him. What is he doing? Because it doesn't go anywhere. Now he has to report if he's going to get credit for the year. It would have forfeited like $8 million or something like that.
Yeah, it's a shame, and because he is an outstanding player, I think, and I'm not 100% privy to the details with the Jets, but I can tell you from past conversations with Hassan, he views himself as one of the elite players in the NFL, one of the elite pass rushers, and he wants to be compensated like one of the elite pass rushers in the NFL. That's 25 million plus. I mean, there are guys over 30 million. Right. And so when he looks at the Nick Bosa's, Brian Burns's of the world, he views himself in that category. And so he wants to be compensated in that category. And I think there's a lot of pride on the line here with him. He said double digit sacks, 4 consecutive years. and he wants to be compensated accordingly.
Yeah, the league doesn't view him in that first
Exactly.
year of pass rushers, and that's the problem because he's a really good player. I mean, the
Yeah.
Eagles are missing him right now. All right, well, so what time you guys on today?
Yeah, 2:00. It's going to be Bo Wolf and Professor Denise Selman in studio. I will be at NovaCare chiming in from NovaCare with all the latest.
All right, well, you get over there, and we appreciate it, man. Good talk. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
All right, there he is, the great Zach Berman. It's it kind of sucks because I could talk to Zach all show. I look up and I'm like, oh man, like we got to move on. I wanted to ask him about Reddick. God, he's so good. Zach Berman, get that book there as well, for sure.
Oh, please buy the book.
Yeah,
I told you already. I'm buying one for Christmas.
There you go. I want a free one. So Zach, send me a.
No, I'm not doing
leave
that.
One at the, leave one at the, no, I don't need. Man, groceries are too expensive.
Worked hard on the book.
Groceries are too expensive.
He's got bills to. Okay, so but if you were to buy a book from somebody you didn't know, you were buying a book
free promotion. I didn't have to bring him on, and I mean, come on, I'm a pretty good pitch man when it comes to things. All right, and I brought him on. I gave him a good pitch.
No,
that's great. One from his trunk.
That's a good friend and a good coworker. You still got to buy the book. You can't not buy the book.
All right, whatever. I'll go to Amazon. No, I mean he's definitely moving units. Congratulations to Zach.
That's what I'm saying. So I want to buy it right from Zach. I want Zach to get the profit from it. I don't want Amazon making money. I don't want distributors making money. I want Zach to make the money. He's the one that did the work. He's the one that gets the cash.
All right. Well, there you go. All right, we'll finish with the locks and some last last minute thoughts. But hey, listen, let's talk about glad hair restoration. That's right. Again, normally I can even say, because I have the far camera, I'm like, yeah, like look at it right now. This is a close up right here. This is what I'm looking for. Glad hair restoration by Morgenstern Medical, established by the late Dr. Paul Glatt, now part of Morgenstern Center under the direction of renowned plastic surgeon Dr. Ken Morgenstern. But the hair team that's been there for decades. And I'm talking about each member of the hair team has over 30 years of experience in hair restoration. So you think about it. You go back to the 90s, they're working in hair restoration. Science, technology, everything has improved so much to current day. You won't believe some things that they have to help treat hair loss. And I talk about the restoration surgery, which I had. But if you're thinning, you're balding, if you're one of our female listeners that are out there, and you're shedding, maybe it's menopause, maybe because it's after childbirth. I'm just telling you, there are so many different advances in hair loss. The vitamin supplementation that's out there right now, oral topical medications, PRP and stem cell, which I've had, non-invasive treatments like TED, which I'm actually going into Dr. Glatt's office next Wednesday. I'm going to have the TED treatment, and then we're going to do some other stuff. I'm just going to say hi to everybody. But listen, you can change your hair and you can change your life. Bald's optional. So if this is something you're interested in, and I see a lot of people out there that are like, be a man, just shave your head. Yeah, like I could have. Or I could try to save my hair, and I did that with Glatt Hair Restoration. 610-980-4000. That's the number. Operators are standing by. You can call and speak to the hair team at 610-980-4000, or the website before and after pictures, including mine, glatthairmctr.com. glatthairmctr.com. All right, we doing Bet Parks. Want to talk about the Bet Parks Sportsbook? Eagles are 9.5-point favorites. It's actually went up. It went down to 8.5, went back to 9. 9.5 when I last looked on the Bet Parks app. Last night, 3.5-point favorites. The Niners win on the road. Good win by the Niners last night. And right now, the only sportsbook app I'd ever recommend, Bet Parks and the Bet Parks Sportsbook app, and online casino, has an amazing offer. 50-1 odds boost. So if you're like, you know what, I believe this team is going to win the big game, then you get the Bet Parks right now, make a deposit, and you get a 50-1 super odds boost. You can make some real money. BetParks.com has all the terms and conditions. And don't forget, yeah, there's the sports book, which I'm constantly looking at lines. But how about the online casino? Blackjack, roulette, craps, and it's with a live dealer. You get that right on the BetParks app. So download it now. Limited time offer only for new customers. 50-1 super odds boost on your pick to win this year's Pro Football Championship. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Michigan, or Maryland. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Bet Parks, gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, well, there you go. Yeah, we'll talk about talk about some NFL stuff coming up here. We have our picks. So Tyler, I know you were, God man, you're sizzling right now with our locks. So if you're just tuning in, you haven't seen it,
which means 0-3 is coming.
Well, you said that last week and you went
That's
3-0.
true. That's very true.
So we picked
reverse psychology.
We make 3 selections against the spread, and then we pick the Eagles game. All of them count against the spread. So like this week, I'm picking the Eagles to win, but I don't believe they're going to cover the 9.5, even though I'm already second guessing that now when Zach talked about AJ Brown being back. Like, is this the magic elixir game? Is this the game where it's like, no, this team really is good?
I don't know if it's the magic elixir game. I think it's the Cleveland Browns really, really, really stink right now game. And that would be my selling point, is because I agree with you. I don't think the Eagles should be 9-point favorites over, your local little league team right now. They don't have it. They're not moving the football particularly well. Their defense played really well against the Saints and then really poorly against the Bucs. But I do believe there is validity to AJ Brown returning. I've said to you plenty of times, I believe he's the best player on this team, period, both sides of the ball. I think there is validity to that. I think there's a trust value that Jalen Hurts has with AJ Brown. I think the playbook opens up a little bit more when he and Devontae Smith return because of different route trees and route capabilities and things like that. Do I think the Eagles are in for some like absolute crazy get right game? I don't know about that. But no. I do think Cleveland is really, really reeling right now. And Deshaun Watson is playing like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL.
Oh, he sure is, if not the worst. Well, let's
I don't know. Will Levis still exists.
Yeah, well, listen. No, he's been worse, I think. Will Levis sucks, but he's in that category right now. God, what a disaster for Cleveland. If they cut him after this year, what it would be? Would they be on the hook for? I think it's $132 million
like
dead
$70
cap.
million.
No, it's 132 dead cap.
Just for next year?
They just redid the contract to get more cap space. This like right when the regular season started, which put him in an even deeper hole.
Wow, that's brutal. So say what you want about the people talking. Obviously Jalen Hurts has not played particularly well this year.
Yeah.
The contract still is very, very manageable compared to some of the
for sure. No, a lot of people would say that it was a bad contract, that whoever was representing Jalen could have certainly held out for more money.
At least more guaranteed money.
Yeah, well, it's the way he's playing right now. I'm sure he's glad that he's taking the contract. So there you go. All right, so let me do my picks. What is my record here? Because I went 1-2 on the picks last week, and I got lucky even on my one win. So I don't know how I'm feeling about myself right now.
So I will say this, and this is the only downside of us being at home. I can't manipulate these graphics to move them, so they're just going to be stuck right in the middle of our faces. You took the Chargers. Oh, excuse me. This is this week's picks. Excuse me. I'll get back to that in just a second. Last week you were 1-2. I believe you took the Bills, and
I won the Bills. I lost. No, I lost the Bills. I won the Ravens, and I lost
the Ravens.
Yeah, and I lost another one. All right. Well, whatever. Let's do the picks right now. I have the Eagles winning the game 20-16. Man, it'd be great if they came out and they scored some early points, and instead of boos in the first quarter because there's 2 3-and-outs in a row, that the fans are actually happy, and we go home happy, and we come in here tomorrow and be like, all right, like that was the kind of performance that I'm looking for. That's really, as a fan, that's the kind of performance that I think fans need right now, which is our team actually is good. Our offense actually is good. I think we forget the talent that's on this team just based on it's been a while since the offense has looked like we thought it was going to. It'd be nice if this was the week. I don't think this is going to be the week. I think this is a win for the Eagles, 20-16, but a lot of field goals and a lot of yards given up by the defense. So time of possession by the Browns, them chewing up yards, but ultimately not scoring touchdowns. So I will take the Eagles to win the close one, 20-16 over the Browns. So take that 9.5 on the Browns. And I would get it now. I don't think the line's going to go up past this. So if you're betting the Browns, I would take it. If you're looking to bet the Eagles, I would wait until kickoff. This might get down. It might get bet down on Sunday when people actually are like, what the hell are we doing with the Eagles being 9-point favorites? So you might see a late run of money. So if you want to bet the Eagles, I would wait until Sunday to see where that line goes. I doubt it goes much higher than it is right now. All right, Chargers and Broncos. I think the Chargers are a really good team. I don't think the Broncos are much of a team, and I just love I love when new good coaches come in, and it makes you realize how good of a coach they are and how much of a stooge Brandon Staley was. I'll take the Chargers -3. Packers and Cards. Cardinals are coming off a very emotional win against San Francisco, a division game. They travel to Lambeau, and the Packers are kind of, they were expected to be a player in the NFC this year. They don't necessarily look like a player. I think this is the game they get off the schneid. I'll take the Packers -5. And over in London, I have friends over here. My buddy Sludge used to work at WIP. He's been doing radio in Chicago for the last, I don't know how many years now. He's over there with his listeners for the Jaguars and the Bears on Sunday morning. I love the Sunday morning game. I love waking up and having a 9 o'clock NFL game to where I'm drinking my coffee and I'm doing stuff and I have the NFL I'm able to watch. The Jags are traditionally good at that, being the home team over in London. They're familiar with the travel. They're familiar with the schedule. Everything's not new to them. And honestly, they need this game. The Jaguars are a better team than they started off the season being. They, even last week, almost lost to the Colts. Joe Flacco almost let them back. They needed a late field goal to win it. But I see the offense to continue to roll, and I think there'll be some points scored in this game. But I'll take the Jags +1.5 over the Bears over in London. I see London. I see France. I see Tyler Zuli and his 3-0 week picks coming up. Yeah, so I'm 5-10. So if you combine my record, I'm 9-10.
Yeah, 9-10.
Very good with the Eagles.
Yeah, 9-10. I mean, you're flirting right around 500. And I don't know about you, but right before I go to make my picks, I go to some of the prognosticators throughout the sports landscape to see what they're doing, to see, am I crazy? Am I agreeing with too many people? Because I think there is like a bell curve of like, oh darn, everybody's taking the Chargers. I'm not taking the Chargers. You know what I mean? There's always that like mental feel to it. Some of these prognosticators, I'm looking at their numbers and they're like, now they pick every game. It gets much harder when you pick every game, but they're like 30-50 through the first 5 weeks. And I'm like, am I supposed to listen to you?
No,
you're the one that gets paid to this. You're 20 games under already.
No, and I'm telling you, the way you're picking games, don't let these guys drag you down. They should be looking for you for picks.
I am feeling pretty good right now. I won't lie to you. Everything in me, you and I have said this phrase a million times. The Eagles should not be 9.5-point favorites over anybody. And everything in me is telling me to take Cleveland, take the Eagles to win the game, to take Cleveland with the points. And as I sit here, as we got closer and closer to the end of the show, maybe it's bravado, maybe it's a false sense of bravado because I need something to feel alive after the Phillies' lack of performance. I could see the Eagles winning this game by 10 points. And 10 might be enough to get, like, that's the hook, right? If you win by 10, you cover the 9.5. And I don't think it's necessarily, I think the Eagles are some juggernaut team and this is like, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts' get-right game. But I do see this as more of along the lines of Deshaun Watson's been terrible. The Browns haven't really been able to run the football either. They only have 483 rushing yards this season. Jerome Ford has been a little underwhelming throughout the course of the season. Do you know the Browns are 12 for 66 on third down conversion attempts this year?
That's not good, right?
It's like just over 20%. That's terrible. They are 12 for 66 on third down conversions. Their opponents are 23 for 66 on third down conversions. So they're not getting off the field either. It's a good defense that I think is unfortunately getting marred by the fact that their offense can't get out of its own way. Like Washington put up a ton of points on them last week, but it was a close game through the first 25 minutes or so. And then the defense just gets run out of gas. I could see the Eagles winning this game in a weird fashion, like 27-17 and covering the spread. So I think for the first time this year, you and I are going to disagree. I'm going to take the Eagles with the points. I think they win this game 27-17.
Damn it. Like I've literally changed the way I think about the game today.
I know. I was sitting here feeling the last 55 minutes have changed my mind apparently, which is probably not a good thing.
I don't know. Do we believe that this team is better than they've shown? Do we believe that Jalen Hurts is better than he's played? Do we believe that this offense is better than we've seen? Not on all of them, but I think this offense is better than we've seen. They still have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's been a stud.
Yep.
This dude has been better than we thought he was going to be. So like they have to be better than they performed. I'm not changing my pick. I'm not changing.
All right. I respect it. Let me give you my 3 picks. This is a game that the line has flipped 5.5 points since a quarterback decision was made. The Bucs were plus 2.5 with Derek Carr slated to start. Spencer Rattler is getting the start now instead of in place of Derek Carr for the Saints. The Bucs have flipped to a 3.5 point line. Excuse me, it was plus 2. Now it's 3.5. I'm going to take the Bucs in this one. Spencer Rattler makes his first career start. I actually like Spencer Rattler's trajectory, like as a long-term project. I don't like Spencer Rattler in this particular game. The Bucs looked really good against the Eagles. They scored a lot of points against the Falcons, but their defense was not very good. Kirk Cousins did whatever he wanted, but I think there's no reason the Bucs don't go out and win this game by 4 points or more. I'm going to take Tampa Bay against the rookie quarterback making his debut.
And let me say this, and I'm sorry to be chiming in on each pick. Spencer Rattler playing is so much better of a story. Or like I'm so much more intrigued to see what he looks like than throwing Derek Carr out there. He stinks, and I hate him. I can't wait to see what Rattler looks like.
I'm excited. I was a proponent of him in college, and I know he played poorly at South Carolina. He went from like, hey, this guy could be a number 1 overall pick to, I don't know if this guy's an NFL quarterback. But I think rocket for an arm, good tangible stuff. It's about the intangibles. A little bit of a little immature. Got some growing up to do, I think. But I think the Bucs tomorrow, on Sunday, win this game. I'm going to take the Steelers over the Vegas Raiders. I believe that line is also at -3. Pittsburgh's defense has been really good. They've held opponents to 22 points or less in 3 of their first 4 games. Justin Fields has come back down to earth a little bit in this one. He looked really good in the 2nd and 3rd game of the regular season, a little less so in the last 2. They did a really nice job defensively so far. TJ Watt, I think, is going to feast in this one. I don't know if Aiden O'Connell ends up playing in this game for Vegas. I know Gardner Minshew got benched a week ago. I don't like either of those quarterbacks particularly. I'm going to take the Steelers on the road with the points at -3.
What the hell are the Raiders doing coming into the season with Gardner Minshew and like, if anything, don't sign Minshew and just let O'Connell do anything. It's not like Minshew has any great upside. He's exactly what you thought he was going to be.
Yep,
he's a good backup. He's not a starter. God, the Raiders are just stupid.
And then the last game I'm going to take, I think, is a toss-up. The Cowboys are 7-3 in their last 10 games at home. Jared Goff is something like 25-6 against the spread in indoors over the last couple of seasons. I know it's a weird extrapolated number, but there's some value to it considering the fact that the Lions have like 12 of their 17 home games, or it's 12 of their 17 games this season are indoors, which is great for a team that plays indoors already. I think Jahmyr Gibbs has a big game in this one. I think the Cowboys defense still being a little bit banged up with both of their defensive ends returning from injury, but still questionable. I'm going to take the Lions in this one. This is one of those games where I either think the Lions win this game in a close game and cover the spread just enough, or Dallas comes out and for 1 week, everybody goes, man, Dallas is back. Dak Prescott. Dallas could win this game by 10 for no reason in particular. I just had a weird feeling about that, but I'm going to stick with the better team indoors. I just feel like
it's a huge line. They're 3-point favorites at Dallas. I like Detroit too. I was shocked at that line. Really shocked at that line. So yeah, that tells you that they're expecting a Lion win and cover.
Yes, I'm going to take the Lions on the road -3.
God, I didn't have the balls to do it. Like you had
said
about
Dallas for a long time. I did.
It's because Dallas is they're that team that they'll show up and just for whatever reason look great.
Yep.
And they'll be like, wow, Dallas is back. And then they'll suck again in 2 weeks, or they'll lose a game next week. Man, hopefully the Eagles aren't that team this year. By the way, shout out to all the diehards out there. Thank you for joining us this morning. As people are asking if I play the piano. I do. Some people call me the white Ray Charles. I am so great at playing the piano. You can't see it in this shot, but yes, the piano is over there.
It's a beautiful piano you've got behind you. I'm sure you spent a lot of money on that one.
I did. As many people know, I made a huge amount of money at WIP, my savings, my investments and everything. I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. I don't have 0% credit cards that I'm moving from one card to another. I have a huge savings account. Yes. So I have this big house behind me, but thank you.
Cool. If you've got room, I'm gonna attempt to try to raise a baby in a 1-bedroom apartment. So maybe if you got room, we'll come hang out with you.
Well, listen, that's what when we had Gianna, we had the smaller townhouse,
Mm.
and then we had Lena, and we were, we got to move. We need more room. We were on
Yep.
top of everything. So it's just part of the natural cycle of living.
For sure.
Is what happens. I got to be honest with you. It's not because it's not because I don't have to drive in the studio to do this. I feel so much more comfortable doing the show like this. I have the computer right in front of me. It's not on my lap. I have headphones on, so I feel like I'm having an intimate conversation with the audience. And
we've been trying to get you a standing desk in that studio since you started.
No, I know, but I also want headphones and stuff, and it's like, well, it's not radio, and I'm like, yeah, I know it's not radio, but it doesn't mean that. I mean, there are a lot of people listening on the audio podcast too,
Sure.
so we can't forget that. I know, we're digital and everything like that, but yeah, I had fun today. So, what was your final on the Eagles?
27-17.
If the Eagles lose, let's say 20-17, and it's more of the same, going for it on fourth down, not getting it, then not going for it on fourth down for no particular reason. Is Nick Sirianni's job on the line if they lose this game and
if they lose to Cleveland? Yes, his job is definitively going to be on the line.
Could he be fired after this game?
You know me, I am not a gut reaction fire coach type of guy. I think if they lose to this team at home, how poorly they've been playing, and I mean Cleveland, not the Eagles. The Eagles haven't played particularly well either. But if they lose to this Cleveland team without Nick Chubb, with a dysfunctional quarterback, with a defense that has unfairly been tasked with having to play 35 minutes a night, if they lose to this team, then yes, the questions will certainly begin to arise.
I just wonder if a move is made. I don't know. I didn't want to come on the air today and be like, if Sirianni loses this game, you fire him. Because honestly, I don't know if that's Jeffrey Lurie, but with Saleh getting fired this week, and by the way, I think I mentioned this on the show, but if I didn't, the whining by the NFL media was unbelievable to me. Robert Saleh is a terrible head coach. He had 3 full seasons, and I know Zach Wilson took over last year. Robert Saleh is a terrible coach, and was it his fault they were 2-3? Aaron Rodgers hasn't played well. Who the hell cares they fired him? Now you actually get somebody that comes in there and maybe can change things up to where the team has more confidence in him. So I know the Jets are a dysfunctional franchise. I'm not trying to say that the Jets don't suck. Go screw Robert Saleh. He's a terrible head coach. I actually think it was the right move.
I think Robert Saleh is an elite defensive coordinator, defensive coach, and in all that. If you look at the Jets' numbers across the board, in his 3 years as their head coach, they were top 10 in defensive metrics across the board. Their defense wasn't the problem. It's very hard to win games with Zach Wilson as your quarterback, but at some point, you're right, you probably do consider a change because of the fact that I think maybe a message gets lost or whatever the case may be. But if you go back even further, Saleh's numbers with San Francisco as a defensive coordinator were spectacular. His numbers as the head coach defensively for the Jets were spectacular. He's going to get another premier coaching job. I don't think he's going to be a head coach right away, but he will be somebody's defensive coordinator next year. And I bet you that defense gets better as a result of it. I just think as a head coach, again, it's hard to win with the Zach Wilsons of the world. But I think at this point, they've probably the Jets have run their course with Saleh as their head coach.
But they're also desperate. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what he's going to look like next year. He don't look good this year. What's he going to look like next year? So you gotta turn it around this year for the Jets. But
and by the way, it shows you how little they think of Nathaniel Hackett, because they go from a defensive coach to a defensive coordinator, and Hackett doesn't get any kind of consideration. Hackett was brought in for one reason. We all know what that reason was.
Yep. For sure, Aaron Rodgers.
Yep, it's Aaron Rodgers.
He got demoted too. He's not calling plays or game planning. They demoted him yesterday.
The did they?
Coach. Yep. Quarterback's
coach.
Wow,
I didn't see that.
Yep. So anyway, all right, dude. Well, have a good weekend, man.
Yeah, you as well.
Are you are you doing you have Phillies today, or are you guys?
Don, I'm doing nothing this weekend. Oh yes, Phillies at 11. We'll be here at 11. This weekend, I'm sitting on my couch currently. You can find me here. I might be fused with the couch by the end of Sunday night.
All right, well, take care of your wife, your wife, very pregnant wife as well. Rubber feet or something like that. Maybe. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Go Birds. We will be back on Monday morning at 8:00. Shout out to everybody out there in the chat. Again, You can listen to the audio podcast of this show. Tyler's going to post it right now. Boom. It'll be up there for you to listen to. And we appreciate you watching. We'll talk to you on Monday. See ya.